Lucinda Riley, you are here to launch your new novel, De søstre, The Seven Sisters. And in the course of the past few years, you have really reached out to a wide audience. Your books have been translated into 38 languages. And here in Norway, you have sold close to 400,000 copies. Wow.
Have I?
Yes. Welcome.
Oh.
It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Well, it's never a task or a problem to come to Norway because I love coming here.
Your new novel is the first in a series of 7 books, which is a series of 7 books is quite a commitment.
Yep, it is. But for me, it means that when I get to the end of a novel, normally I have to give the characters away. And so with this, it means that I can continue all the characters right through for the next 6 years. So for me, it's a complete pleasure because I really hate stopping the relationship that I have with the characters that I've created. So it's a real pleasure for me to be writing this series.
The 7 sisters in this series and the 7 books are related to a cluster of stars with the same name, the 7 sisters. How did you come up with this idea for a series?
Well, I think because I need to be challenged, and I obviously don't want my readers to get bored either. So we both have a mutual need to move on and do something different. And I was thinking about this very hard 2 Christmases ago, and I was outside in our garden in Norfolk, and we're really famous for having big skies in Norfolk. And I was looking up because I do follow the stars and I know all the constellations, and I saw the 7 sisters above me, and they appear between November and April in the Northern Hemisphere. And I suddenly thought, my goodness, I have 7 children altogether. Wouldn't it be fantastic to write a series of books based on the mythology of the 7 sisters, but to make each sister a contemporary woman? So in other words, this is not some old-fashioned or serious mythological story. It's about 7 contemporary women who live our life in our world, but there's a difference because they're all handed a clue to go and research their past.
Because these sisters are introduced under rather extraordinary circumstances, aren't they?
Yes, well, they are, because in fact what happens is that, and I had to think up a concept, how I would get these 7 girls together. So what I decided to do, because the 7 sisters stars cover the world, and also their mythology is all over the world. It's not just Greek, but it's Mayan, it's Aborigine, it's completely across the world. There are different stories about the 7 sisters stars. So what I wanted to do was to include the 7 seas, if you like, and gather the sisters together from all corners of the world. So I decided that all my sisters were going to be adopted, and they were going to be adopted by a mysterious father who in the book is called Parsold. But we meet the first sister when she's just heard that her father has died. And Maya, who the first book is about, has to fly home with all her other sisters to this fairy tale house on the shores of Lake Geneva in Switzerland. And they all gather together, all the sisters. And they are given clues to their past. And the first story, Maya's story, is of her travelling to find her heritage.
Because Parsold leaves her a quote which is quite descriptive of her.
Not if you haven't read the book, but yes, it is very descriptive, very indeed. And there's 2 or 3 things that happen when the sisters come back to their childhood home, Atlantis. And the first is that they meet the lawyer who is working on behalf of Parsold. And they're all given an envelope that has some kind of clue to their past inside it. And then they are all taken into a beautiful garden that was always Parsold's garden. And in the centre of it has appeared, since his death, something called an Armillary Sphere. And this is a very ancient sundial, and basically it plots the position of the stars. And there are 7 bands going round the Armillary Sphere, and on each one there is an inscription. And there is the name of the sister, a set of coordinates, and a quotation in Greek. And so they are, if you like, they are armed with everything they need if they wish to discover where they originally came from.
And Maya's search for a biological family takes her back in time and to Brazil. And the making of the enormous statue of Jesus Christ, Christ the Redeemer. What sparked off this idea?
I think for me, when people ask me where my inspiration comes from, it's normally a location. And it's coming to a country and it's suddenly thinking, I really want to write about this place. And it's indescribable, really. I just get this sort of instinct and I think I need to know more about this country. And it doesn't happen all the time because I travel all over the world, but when it does, it's just like, yes, this is what I need to write about. And so I'd been to Brazil and I'd been up to see Christ the Redeemer. And at night in particular, it is so stunning because he's dressed in white and he looks as though he is literally flying in the sky. And I looked at him and I just thought, how did you get here? You know, who built you? Because I knew that the statue was 90 years old. And so I decided that I would base Maya's story of her past around the building of Christ the Redeemer, because with the series of the 7 sisters, what I wanted to do was to, if you like, tell female history, because there are many male authors who have told male history. For example, Ken Follett with his series of books, and he tells those stories through male ways, e.g. war and politics. And so what I am trying to do with the 7 sisters is tell the female story of the last 100 years through the softer, iconic and cultural events. So in each book there is iconic and cultural set pieces from each country that have been built or created, music or paintings. So it's a very sort of, if you like, softer, feminine take on the journey of humanity in the last 100 years. So the first book starts with the Christo, which in a way is perfect, because whether you are religious or not, he is still the most famous human being on the planet. He comes number 1, you know, on any poll in any country of famous names. Number 1 is always Jesus.
In the 7 sisters, you really tell 2 stories. There are 2 layers, one that is set in the present and one in the past, which is a great technique, because then you can really explore what happens in the past. The past tend to haunt your characters in your novels, and the secrets coming back to catch up with them.
Well, I think that everyone has secrets. There's not one of us who does not hold something inside them that they wouldn't want others to know.
No.
Is there anyone out there that doesn't have any secrets? I doubt it.
You must be doing a lot of research when you write your books, and they tend to be even historical figures in your novels. How close are you to real events and facts?
Well, what I've tried to do with the Seven Sisters is to write the truth and research the truth about the actual historical incident. So when I was researching the building of Christ the Redeemer, I was living in Rio at the time for the writing and research of the book. I mean, what a terrible thing to have to do, to go and live in Rio. And I discovered, in fact, that the great-great-granddaughter of the original architect of the Cristo lived in Ipanema, just around the corner from me. And we actually became great friends. And she's a wonderful human being, Belle. And in fact, I named the character in the book, partly after her and partly after my daughter, because my daughter is Isabella, and Belle Noronha, the great-granddaughter, is Belle. So she's both. And she gave me access to all Heitor de Silva Costa's private diaries and the writing of how this amazing, iconic statue was built, because when you see it, I mean, it is 40 meters up in the air, and the top of it is just, it's almost like an ice cream cone upside down. I mean, it's so narrow. And this was built in 1920s. And how did it happen? And so, anyway, I found out everything that I possibly could. But of course, this isn't a historical non-fiction book. It's not like an encyclopedia. It's not like that, and that's not what I want to write. And so then I was told one thing that was the key to my story, and that was when Belle told me that the hands of the Cristo were modelled on a woman, which in itself is interesting. So I said, well, who was the woman? And she said, oh, it was Margarida, who is actually in the novel. But Margarida retracted the fact that the hands were hers in her deathbed confession. So of course for me, I thought, well, if it wasn't her hands, then whose hands were they? So that was the key to my story.
Another secret from the past.
Exactly.
You've said that location is important to you in your inspiration, and also that this series will revolve around the great cultural achievement of humanity. I think I love that idea. And that leads us to your next book in the series too, to be set in Norway.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, written, finished. We just have one small problem with the name of a cat in 1876, but if anyone's got any suggestions, please let me know. But no, I knew that I was going to write about Norway when I first came here. And that was 5 years ago now, but I didn't know when it was going to be. And so I thought, well, how wonderful, because I have been to Rio, and of course it's hot and sultry and sweaty, and there's a great samba in the story, especially the bit that happens afterwards. Anyway, before I get too hot, I decided that I was going to set the next book in snowy, freezing cold Norway, which I felt was a really good contrast to Rio. And I know this may sound silly, but in some ways the two countries have a lot of similarities, or maybe I feel they're similar because I feel very comfortable in Brazil with the Brazilian people, and I feel very comfortable here with the Norwegians. So anyway, I thought, what is it that I can write about here in Norway? And really, for me, it was a no-brainer, because my love for Norway began when I was a very small child, when my father, who travelled endlessly around the world, and in fact gave me my wanderlust, And he came home from Norway. It was the first country he'd ever been to, and he'd actually been up to Bergen. And so my mother got a Norwegian jacket, which she still has, which I have to look out. I mean, it's a bit old now, but it's still going. And my father also bought the old vinyl recording of the Pagan Suite. And he played it and played it and played it. So I could virtually whistle it in its entirety. And then he did something very bad, because I was only about 5. And he took me and all my friends for a birthday party, 5-year-olds, to see a film called The Song of Norway. And maybe most people won't know this film, and probably that's good for them. Because this film was almost like a Sound of Music concept, but it was about Grieg, and it was all set in the beautiful fjords. And anyway, it was very long and not really suitable for 5-year-olds. And I hated my father at that point for sending me and all my friends to a birthday party. And I was just so embarrassed, because I knew all my friends would think that was the worst birthday party I've ever been to. But anyway, the whole connection with Grieg for me has been since I've been a young girl. And so I knew that the cultural thing, I mean, apart from the beautiful landscape here, the fjords and the Northern Lights, and the fact that I'm just in love with it, was one thing. But the one cultural thing that is known across the world is Grieg's Peer Gynt Suite. And even if I say that to people, I say, oh yes, I'm writing the new book about Grieg and the Peer Gynt Suite, and there is blank, and then all I have to do is go, do 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 do, or do na 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 na, and they go, oh yes, we know this, we know this. And so what is a really beautiful thing is that they don't know possibly who the composer of this music was, and they don't know how that beautiful iconic music 130 years on came to be. And so I am telling that original story.
Your books have had tremendous success. Whenever a new book is being published, for example in Germany, you sell 1 million copies. Has your success changed your life in any way?
Yeah, I'm just a complete diva. My family call me Mariah, bring me the goat's milk now. I don't, oh my God, it's a really hard question, because I don't think that I've changed at all. I'm still exactly the same person. But even if I haven't changed, I suppose I have to be honest and say that my life has changed. And only in the sense that everything is so speeded up now, and what I used to be able to do slowly, because there's so much now to do, I have to go faster. So it's like me, how I was, but on the speeded up version, and everything has to be faster. And I mean, there was an article in the paper here about the fact that I went to Chanel all the time, and I just laughed because I thought, oh my God, well actually I quite like to go to Chanel, but actually I don't have time to do anything except write the books and be a mother. And so all my friends think seriously that I'm dead because I don't have time to do the normal stuff. I think that's the bit that's changed, that before I could maybe spend time organising dinner parties at home or going out and just having downtime. And I don't really get, and that phrase, do you have it in Norway when they say me time?
Yes, alene.
Okay, well that's the bit that I just don't get any of, because I'm always either, writing the books, or I'm going somewhere to research them or promote them, or I am, the minute I get home, just being a mum to my kids. And so the bit that I that is missed out, if you like, is the me time, which is odd because everybody talks about, people who become successful being divas. you know, like they're selfish, but actually, for me anyway, it's the opposite, and there isn't time for anything in a way for you, because you have to be there for everybody else, you know. And obviously I'm a mother first, and a writer second. So it's amazing, and I'm incredibly lucky and grateful and thankful for what's happened. But you know, it's very, very, very full on and busy at the moment, and I'm my own worst enemy, because it's me who's decided to write this series of 7 books. So I've only got myself to blame, you know. So, but you know, obviously, I feel very happy. I think I would just like my life to be a bit more stretched out, and for there to be a bit more time to go out for lunch with a girlfriend and drink wine and, you know, just chat. And I think that's the bit that's changed for me.
Well, being from Ibsen's hometown and...
Skien!
Yes.
Yay!
And I played Grieg on the piano since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I obviously look very much forward to reading your next novel.
Oh, thank you.
Lucinda, it has been a real pleasure having you here. Thank you for coming, and good luck with De søstre.
Okay, and I just want to say thank you for everyone here who has supported me and read me and just made me feel so much at home that now I spend all my spare time I can living here. So I just want to say thank you to you.